Friday, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Brett Allen Show, a pop culture podcast where we interview your favorite actors from film, television, music, and now Broadway and more. And we have a great guest today. We're talking with Jordan Dean. We had his co star on yesterday. And now we are talking with Jordan about escaping the palace, Harry and Meghan escaping the palace. Jordan plays the iconic Harry, Prince Harry, and I'm very excited for this interview. Jordan, welcome into the show. It's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just dive right in. I will ask you the same question that I asked Sydney because I just find this fascinating. Talk about something that couldn't be any more current events than this.
Mm.
So, like, literally, this just happened within the last year or less. And now Lifetime has, like they do on many amazing projects, decided to tackle this. I heard her side of the story. I'm very curious to hear about yours as far as what your experience was with the project, finding out about it, auditioning, and then literally, like, within weeks of this event happening, you are in production for a televised series of this iconic interview and everything that followed after.
Yeah. Well, every audition, I would assume that Sydney said the same thing, was basically over Zoom. So, or self tapes. And in my case, I was by myself in my apartment. And so I had my mom call in via Zoom
Nice.
and read Megan's lines to me in an empty room with like an X on the wall that I like used as like an eye line, and that's how I auditioned for it. And I was also moving at the time, so like right outside the camera was just boxes just everywhere, and
Nice.
like everything was just like chaos in my apartment. And yeah, I filmed it and then sent in the tape, and then yeah, did another Zoom with Minaj, the director, and the producing team, and then got the offer. And I said this before. It's like I had some apprehension. I think because I knew that there was just going to be so much scrutiny over the topics that we were covering in the film, and there's so much scrutiny over the two of them, and so I think going into it, I knew that we had to do the roles justice, because I feel like the it's not your typical, there's a romance in it and there's a love story at its core, but it's not your typical
No, it's definitely not.
royal romance in that sense.
It is not. And again, the fact that this is such a current event has to just add to the pressure of preparing for it. But I'll tell you, like I told Sydney, you both did such a fantastic job.
Uh,
And there were moments where I'm watching this where I feel like I'm actually watching televised coverage of the event, like that are literally happening in real time. For her, it's different, obviously, because in the sense that, well, I shouldn't say different. Playing somebody that's so current and so relevant, and who, for her side, was actually in the business at one point before becoming involved with the family and then leaving the business and now marrying you in the story, Harry. It's confusing here. I feel like this is like an episode of I don't know what, but it's interesting. It's a great project, and she mentioned to me too that you both had worked together before. In any case, so that was
mm.
great in American Psycho, which I saw that. Good Lord, when I found out about both of you coming on the show, I was like falling over myself. So it must be nice to already have that chemistry with somebody to begin with, right? Especially when you're not getting to spend a lot of time together. So now you're in Canada, you're getting ready to film this.
Mm.
It was pretty much hitting the ground running, right, from your experience. Like there was like not a lot of preparation.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of time to. I think we were like, we were so lucky that we knew each other, because you're right. We had a day after we got out of quarantine. We were quarantined for 2 weeks, and then we had a day with the hair and makeup and costume department, and then we were basically on set the next day. So, and we were shooting a really intimate and emotional scene. So the fact that we knew each other and the fact that we had that rapport already from going through that experience at American Psycho, and there was that trust. And I also felt like we had a comfort level that was really, so necessary when you're portraying the two of them, and we're showing them at another side of them, very intimate moments that a lot of people don't get a chance to see. And so the fact that there was that comfort and that we trusted each other right from day one, it was just like, we fell with our bums in the butter, if you will, for a British saying.
Yes, touche. So the response from this has been mixed, but I think most people enjoy it because this is something that we get to be a part of and see that we would not normally be involved in. The big question I would have, because you do this so well, both of you, and it's not a sensationalized story or a character of the two people that you're playing, but in my opinion, it's done honestly, and I feel that it's easy for us as viewers to connect with you as the characters. Like, what is the hope, Jordan, that you want people to get outside of, obviously TV and film is for entertainment, but
Hmm.
in a bigger picture sense, what are you hoping that the viewers take away from this uh, when they get a chance to watch it if they haven't already?
Um, yeah, well, I think it's very easy for people to kind of um, take them as headlines,
Yeah.
because they're in the headlines so often. So that when you're at the grocery store or the deli, you're seeing them on People, or you're seeing the headlines. And I think the beauty in portraying them is you're showing them as humans.
Yeah.
You're showing there's a humanity to them and a vulnerability to someone like to Harry, um, as well as a strength. I think that is something that I hope people take away from it and see another side of them that you don't get from a tabloid article or a headline. Yeah, you're really getting the depth of these two people.
Yeah, very beautifully said. It's fantastic, and I mean it's great to watch. I've watched it a couple times,
Hmm.
and it's fantastic. So my hats off to you on such
Thank
a
you.
great performance. And you have done a lot of a lot of other a lot of other amazing things in your career. You've been on Broadway, obviously. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm.
Which came first for you? Was it television and film, or was it theater, or was it kind of a mix of both for you specifically?
It was sort of a mix. My parents were actors,
Okay.
and so they were actors, and I sort of grew up in the industry, in the biz. I was auditioning when I was, 5 years old in New York, and so I've been sort of doing theater, off Broadway theater, and television spots when I was a kid, and it sort of stayed that way, which is interesting because it's like if I didn't grow up in LA, I grew up in New York, and there was always TV in New York, but it just seemed like theater was sort of the core of what people did. And so I was doing off Broadway plays. I like missed, you know, part of a few years of school doing some theater, and then you kind of sprinkle in some TV. And then it seems like when I graduated, I went to Carnegie Mellon. I graduated school, and then it seems like TV in New York has sort of exploded as well. So there's been more TV and more film to go alongside the Broadway.
Yeah, and I think they're two different skill sets as well,
Mm.
but I find theater a lot more fascinating in the sense of the time and the effort it takes to get a production up and running. Broadway is now coming back after this pandemic, and shows are starting to come back like September, October. And it's interesting reading, why can't they come back now? It's like, well, they've been off for a year and a half, and they have to like revamp. Because if you're going from 8 shows a week, performing, and then you don't do it for a long time, it's like any muscle that you have to work it and flex it to get it back up. Do you have the interest or desire to do more theater or Broadway and as things move along, or have you kind of gravitated more towards television, or do you just like to perform in general, like being a creative?
I think I just like to be creative. I I love doing TV, and I loved, making this movie, and I've done musicals, and I've done Shakespeare, and I've done, TV, and I've done movies, and I'm writing a pilot now. So I
Oh,
think
nice.
just being creative and having that outlet, and you're right, it really does. Each medium really takes a different muscle, and is a different test, um, for me as a performer, and as someone who wants to be involved in as many mediums and forms as possible, because that's really like how you keep sharp.
Yeah.
In the next production of theater, it'll take a little easing into it from doing so much TV work, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they're both great, by the way. So, kind of looking
Mm,
back at your career and everything that you have done as a creative, when you're not performing, like what do you do to keep in the creative space? Like, let's maybe not necessarily during the lockdown, because that's, I feel like we talk about that with everybody, but like even like now that this project is done and you might not maybe
mm.
be auditioning, what keeps you creative, Jordan, as far as like that muscle memory and just really staying in the space?
Yeah, well, right now, like I said, I'm working on a pilot, about a murder that happened in upstate New York. So a little bit of true crime.
Nice.
So that's something that I've really loved to do, is to write and to read other screenplays and to get inspired by them. But other than that, I play music. I play guitar and I write songs, and I also do a lot of street photography. I grew up doing photography. My dad was a great photographer, and sort of taught me, and um, I just love being in like New York and capturing street scenes, and I love these like classic New York black and white photos, and I've been doing that, like, you know, on and off for the past like 2 years.
I love it. I mean, that's fantastic. New York is such a beautiful place. It's been years
Mm,
since I visited, but it's just it's a different space, and the thing is like, they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, and I think that's probably true on some level, in the sense of just being able to go there because it's just breathes creativeness, I think,
mm.
because of Broadway. Television, again has kind of come lately, but even then in the mid 80s and 90s, I think it's just a great place to be. And a lot of people go there for comedy. Comedians go there to perform because it's easier there, perhaps maybe in some other places, but it's just a beautiful place. Jordan, one last question as we wrap
Mm.
our conversation up here. Looking back at your life and your career, was there ever a moment or a time where somebody gave you a piece of advice in your journey? I mean, obviously you grew up in it, but outside of maybe the influence that the family had, someone that you've met along the way that has spoken into your life and said this, that, or the other that you've carried with you that you could maybe pass on to somebody else listening?
Uh, there are two moments that come to mind, but I guess I'll start with the first one. Was the actor John Connie came and spoke at our school, um, and he basically, we were, I think that was our last year of school at Carnegie Mellon, and he was like facing, 20 or so, uh, actors, and he basically said, "You all have a ticket in your hand, and you're waiting for the train to come, and you just have to know that you have that ticket, and you just got to stay on the platform because the train will come, but you all have the ticket." And it was like this weird kind of thing that, just like you said, that just
Wow.
stuck with me, throughout all the ups and downs of the business, that I just kept saying, I still have that ticket. If I just stay in it, the train will arrive. So
I
that's just
love it.
something that's really stuck with me.
Fantastic. Well, this is a great series for people to watch. It's on Lifetime Network. You can stream it. If you don't have a subscription to Lifetime, get one. It's like the cost of a cup of coffee. I don't know if that's true or not. People are going to come after me for saying that. But if you like those types of shows and true crime and true life and everything like that, this is definitely one you do not want to miss. It's starring Jordan Dean, Sidney Morton, and a fantastic surrounding cast, which the rest of them are coming on next week. So I'm excited to talk with them as
Oh, that's
well.
good.
Yeah, and thanks for joining me today, Jordan. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.